on this episode as me and Neal Driscoll dive fin too deep. A huge deal is on the way for De'Von Achane, according to Adam Schefter. But is it going to be in Miami? We're going to discuss that. Plus, a whole lot of draft talk. We got a lot for you in this episode. So let's get into this. What is good, Finn Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one. I appreciate each and every one of you coming through. As you do me the favor, smash that like button. If you're new, go ahead and subscribe. Neal, we are now officially under a month away from the draft, right? April 23rd is when it starts. We're at the 24th of March. How you feeling, bro? You know, hey, no AI generated slop over here. Just great draft talk between me and you all year, and it's finally going to culminate into some results over the next month.
Yeah, I mean, we're less than a month away, so obviously it's coming. Our intro without the Jalen Waddle selection just kind of stings there, man. I just kind of it kind of stung when I didn't hear the Waddle selection, and then you see the contract that JSN gets from Seattle, and you're like, damn, dude, that's $15 million than Waddle was making. We had him at a bargain, so like, that one still sings. But yeah, man, it's draft season. I mean, it's all the pro days, all the big time pro days are happening this week. You're seeing some crazy ass feats out there. You saw all the guys at Miami. You saw the insane 40 that Mansour Delane ran. And I'm preparing myself because it's one of those things that I don't know who it's going to be, but somebody really good's going to be there at pick 11. And, there's going to be a lot of static, I think, in what can happen in the first 10 picks. And we're kind of that first team on the outside looking in, but something is going to happen, I think, that benefits the Dolphins at pick 11. And, as the draft creeps up, the more and more I think about it, we've talked about moving, but there's somebody that's going to fall to them at 11 that just has no business being there. I'm curious of who it's going to be. Whether it's Bain, whether it's Mauigoa, whether it's Mansour Delane, whether it's Caleb Downs, like the list of people that it could potentially be keeps growing. So, I mean, the Dolphins are in a good spot, and it's the first pick of the John Eric Sullivan era. So,
you ready for this?
I
got a feeling, Neal. I don't know why. I've been talking. Is it going to be Keldric Faulk? Like, I got a feeling it's going to be trenches either way. Me. I would take I would take Mansour Delane and Jermon McCoy over Keldric Faulk. I wasn't high on them. I don't know. Did you see Faulk tested today? I don't know if you saw that. He came in at what? 6'5", 1/8, 274. His 40 was in the 4.67, 4.69 range today.
Yeah, a guy like him, you're hoping he becomes DeForest Buckner, but DeForest Buckner is kind of an outlier to what that happens there. He reminds me a lot of a guy named Mike Neal that came out of Purdue. If you remember who the Packers drafted a while back, who was very not a bad player, a sturdy player. But in this draft class, a Keldric Faulk at 11, I think would be a gigantic miss by them. He's not going to get gaudy sack numbers. I don't want a run defender at 11, to be honest. If so, go get me Kayden McDonald and pair him with Kenneth Grant and build a Williams wall then, because I think the best run defender in this draft is Kayden McDonald from Ohio State. But, oh, man, that would be as disappointing because, we're talking about scenarios and outcomes, and there's not a lot of ways that I think Miami can mess this up. But Keldric Faulk, to me, would be a way that they could mess this up. And it's not that I hate the prospect. If you're drafting at 20, it's a different conversation. But at pick 11, when Mendoza's going in front of you, Jeremiah Love's going in front of you. I mean, Arvel Reese and David Bailey are likely going in front of you. That means one of 7 guys is going to fall to you, right? And Bain, Caleb Downs, Mansour Delane, We've named him Mauigoa, like that list. Like for me, the worst case scenario, which is a great scenario, would be Vega Ione. I would be more than happy with him. Jermod McCoy. I think those are like the A-, B+ type picks. A Ruben Bain, a Mauigoa, or Caleb Downs, or Delane fall in your lap is probably like the A for me. But man, like Keldric Faulk would be John Eric Sullivan was starting with a big C for me. So I hope that's not the route. It does feel like he's a guy they have a lot of interest in, though. He fits a lot of what I think they're looking to do. So that is one of those things that I hope maybe the Saints jump in front and take them at 8, but I don't think that's going to happen.
You see how good that pro day was for my boy Skylar Bell today?
Yeah, I know the Dolphins weren't there. I was surprised by that.
Yeah, he had a really, really good pro day right now. I mean, he had a 90th almost a 90th percentile in the short shuttle, an elite 3 cone, 6.65. I mean, he posted, I think man, he posted some real numbers. Remember, he had like a 4.40 to go with that. I mean, man.
Yeah, and Ohio State's tomorrow, right?
Yeah, they're tomorrow, right? Yeah.
I think Ohio State's tomorrow, so that's going to be a big one. But no, man, it's
the big one. The big one for me is, we're waiting for Jamon McCoy's pro day. You know, that's I got to see this Tennessee pro day because what is that? I think that's a week from today too. That's the 31st, I think.
So it's good to see Brazil, and then the more I watch Colton Hood, the more I like him. I'll be honest, like he is a hell of a corner in his own right. I like, the Tennessee pro day is going to be one to watch, but no, we're less than a month away, man, and it comes fast, man. I like it when the day after the draft ends. It seems like it's so far away, but the season, everything flies by, man, and here we are.
What do you think about today? I tweeted out, and this is how I feel, man. Listen, and it got a pretty good response. Like the only weapon I feel like at this point I would take at 11 is Kenyon Sadiq. I think he's so much more than a receiving weapon, right? He's that freak athlete, a great blocker. He absolutely embraces the physical aspect of the game. He just offers you so much schematic versatility, can line up in the backfield, can line up in line, can line up in the slot, true H-back, can give you that wide potential, can give you so much from there. Only 21 years old. Listen, I said this. I think he's better than Warren and Loveland. Bowers might be slightly ahead of him. But, besides Sadiq, I wouldn't start considering a wide receiver until 30 or day 2, really day 2, preferably.
Right.
And tight end, I wouldn't start considering, until mid to late day 2. After that, where you stand with that? We were talking about if the board doesn't fall our way, and you talked about like Vega Ione. What about Sadiq and giving Malik a legitimate weapon? Because Neal, I don't know if you saw what Breer said yesterday, but he called Malik, like he basically painted the picture that Halfley and Sullivan have made Malik the torchbearer of their program to these free agents that they're bringing over here. And they're telling it's not a rebuild. They bring in his best friend, Jalen Tolbert and stuff. I don't know, man. And you look at Sadiq, again, he's much more than a weapon. Just look at the block. That's like, Neal, depending on how you want to use him, that's a 6th run blocker on the field.
Yeah, look, I like Sadiq a lot. I still wouldn't take him I think he's the best tight end, clearly. I actually think if you look at positional value, the gap between him and tight end 2 is probably the biggest gap of any positional ranking in the entire draft. Maybe Mendoza to Simpson, you know what I mean? But Sadiq is, you nailed it. There is not a guy in round 2 that I would want to take as a tight end. There's not, honestly, I actually think the tight end position, there's a lot of good guys, probably round 3, round 4, that make a lot of sense. But like, if you're not going to go Sadiq, so if you look, I think if you want to trade back in a scenario and try to get a 3rd, a 2nd, Sadiq's a perfect target. For me, I'm at this pick. It's really, to me, offensive line or defensive cornerstone. Like I told you this in via text. Like Jordan Tyson is off my board at 11. And I know he's going to have a private workout that's coming. I think
You
there's
said
just
off
too
your
many.
board, bro. You didn't say at 11. That's why I replied to you and I said, well, if he's there at 30, bro, I'm running to that podium.
Yeah, I don't think he will be. I think there's a
No,
realistic
he's not
chance he's gonna go between 13 and 20.
Well, apparently
But
he's
like,
working out at his pro day, isn't? No,
nah,
he has
not
another
as
workout. He has another
it's
workout
private.
scheduled. A
He
private
set up a
workout,
private
right?
workout. I just think
Yeah,
there's too many red flags on the injury
yeah.
front for me to want a premium pick that high on him. So I'm off of him. For us, to be honest, like I'm not as high.
I wouldn't
on
take
Cardinals.
any of those receivers given our position in the first round.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm like I do think that like when you have a need, right, positional need, players get like kind of overvalued, and I think Cardell Tate is that guy. I think a lot of Cardell Tate's ability to eat this year was because he was drawing a lot of number 2 corners because of what Jeremiah Smith's impact
he's a good
was.
route runner, though, bro. He's a good player.
Yeah, but in big games, man, he was quiet, right?
Yeah, he's not Jackson Smith and Jigba. I don't even think he's better than Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah, and think about that, right? Smith Najigbo was what 20th pick in the draft, and I think Cardell Tate, if he goes, let's just say 6 to Cleveland, like I'm not saying he's going to be a bad player. I think that's just forcing a player way too early. And I do like Mekhi Lemon's tape, but I do not like his personality. So it's like
I don't like him at 11. I don't like the player at 11.
Yeah, I don't like any of the receivers at 11, to be honest.
No.
And that's where it's like to me, it's Mauigoa is the best pick, I think, but I will say that I think Mansour Delane is right there with him. Like I think I think Mansour Delane is going to be a top 5 cornerback in football when all is said and done.
If Tyson was fully healthy and didn't have the injury history, he's the only receiver I'd be down for at 11. If he had no injury history, squeaky clean, and we didn't have that worry, yes, Tyson at 11 would make a ton of sense. But that's not the world we live in. So that's why I say no receiver makes sense at 11 right now. It just doesn't. Especially like, listen, if you're afraid he's going to get snagged at 43, I think Brazil at 30 is better value.
Yeah, look, he had the big injury, obviously. Tyson had the big catastrophic injury, but he's also had all the little knickknacks, like what we just went through with Jalen Waddle. Like,
and it's been since high school too. It goes back to high school with him.
It does. Like he is a injury prone player. He is a red flag player on my board because of that. So it's like, but I think you get a Mauigoa there. I just, man, like the more and more I see mock drafts coming, it's hard
Sorry,
for
Anthony,
me to think.
I'm not high on Denzel Boston, bro. I'm not. Flags going off to me when this guy don't want to test in front of people, bro. Because you know why? His agent told him, hey, they project you as a 4.54. That's better than what you're going to run, brother. Do not go out there.
Yeah, he's a possession dude. But I think it's getting the defense a cornerstone, to be honest. I think that is where it's heading. It's like a mock between now and then, it's going to change drastic. It only takes 1 or 2 guys to come up high to get you pushed down, someone in your lap.
I think Mansour Delane's going to be good. I agree with you. Out of the 2 of them, the only tape I saw that screamed top 5 corner in the NFL was McCoy's 2024 tape, though. Like, I'll be real here. And here's another thing, too.
Like wait, you don't think his tape last year, Mansour Delane, was
screams top 5 in the NFL?
Oh, I thought his tape was unbelievable.
No, I thought it was good, but I don't think it was like, listen, I told you, I told everyone, I really like him. Last year, I pushed back on Jahdae Barron when people were like, oh, take him instead of Will Johnson. I was like, no, it's clear cut. This year, I've been pretty, I've had in a lot of the 5 players I'd take at 11, Mansour Delane is a player I've said I'd be fine with. I like Mansour. I think the corner 1, corner 2 conversation is a lot closer than it was last year. You know what I mean? And I understand if anyone goes either way. I understand if people side with McCoy. I understand if people side with Delane, where last year I didn't understand what people were seeing in terms of Barron having anywhere near tape that was as good as what Will Johnson was putting out. This year I can at least understand it. I've said this. So I think it's a much better conversation. So I like Delane. I just think McCoy's 2024 tape out of the 2 of them is the best out of the 2 of them.
Yeah, look, I have both as top 10, but I have Delane as my number 4 prospect in this class. I think he's fucking insane. I think he's gonna go. I think he's gonna go as high as the Giants in 5 now. Like they need a corner.
Yeah, but vertical speed. But see, bro, listen. If you watch
I don't even care about the 40.
Yeah, that 40, like people are
I don't
gushing
care
over that
about that.
40. His game is centered around the 40 when you watch it.
Yeah,
Like, and you don't look
he's the best.
4.34 on film, bro. Like, I don't know what people think they're seeing. He looked like mid 4.4 guy on film.
But he's the best man cover corner in this draft, I think, by a good margin. And like, yeah, pro day 40s don't mean as much to me because they're designed for you to put up better scores.
Yeah.
Like everything they do is to make you stand out, right? If you don't test at your own pro day, then you probably have serious doubts or think you have nothing to prove. But
Back to
like, yeah,
Denzel Boston, we go. Anyways, continue.
yeah, but like it's one of those things that, man, like I do think I know the first two picks how they're going to go. Like I do think it's going to be Mendoza 1, and I do think it's going to be Arvell Reese 2. I think those things are finalized. I don't think there's any changing that between now and the draft. I think the draft starts at 3 with Arizona, and like you see a lot of people saying that Mauigoa was going there. You know, I don't know if David Bailey's the guy, you know, but like, could they do something with like a Sonny Styles? I don't know. Like, right. Like where they pick, I think makes the biggest adjustment to the draft. The one thing I have heard pretty adamantly is that,
Titans are going Bailey.
well, I think that if a lot of people mock Caleb Downs to the Bengals, I think if he's there, he's the pick for the Chiefs at 9. I've heard the Chiefs are smitten with Caleb Downs, and obviously they lost Brian Cook. They lost 3 starters in their secondary.
They could go after Delane as well. They're another one. And I've heard Delane, I've heard the Saints with Delane.
Yeah, they met with him today. Mickey Loomis met with him today.
Oh, I was hearing this. I was hearing this like before their pro day that they love that guy.
Yeah. They have a huge need. They traded Marshawn Lattimore, who kind of flared out for the Commanders, but they need him.
Okay, so let's do this quick exercise. Let's put Delane in the top 10 right now. Let's figure out who's going to fall to us. Okay, so let's go by this. Okay, Mendoza 1. Right. Okay. 2, we'll go. I'll buy your Arvell Reese.
Yep. I feel good about that as any other pick in the top 10 besides Mendoza.
Well, I feel good about Bailey or Bain at 4 to the Titans. I think that's pretty much a lock.
I think it would be Bailey.
Yeah, it just what. Yeah, me and Tony Pauline talking about it. That's what I think it's going to be.
But who do you think in Arizona at 3 then?
That's where you're right. I don't think they're going to take Mauigoa. I got this. Don't you got this sneaky suspicion? And I'm not even saying Arizona. Don't you got this sneaky suspicion that Freeling's going to be the first guy off the board at tackle because he's a left tackle and the NFL views that as more of a premium than a right tackle? I mean, Tristan Wirfs, I was pounding the table back in 2020. He's the best guy in his class, but still, how many guys went before him? Even Becton went before him. Why? Left tackle premium.
I'll be honest. I don't even I think Arizona's the trickiest. I don't think they're going to pull the trigger on Jeremiah Love. I think he goes all the way to the Commanders in 7, to be honest. Like if that happened, like I think
Commanders are in danger for the other edge too. Like that's where Bain or Bailey, whichever one doesn't go, could go there.
See, I have with you. I'm with you with Bailey going 4 to the Tennessee Titans. I think they'll take him with Simmons and pair him. I think that's a good fit. I think Styles would go 5.
Yeah, I agree with Giants. So who we got at 3 then? Who do you think Arizona's taking? I don't think they're taking Mauigoa, bro.
But they don't need Freeland. They have a left tackle in Paris.
That's what I'm saying. Are they the ones
Sonny
that
Styles?
Want to pair, or do they want to pair another weapon with Harrison?
Yeah, man, that's so rich.
Think about this. If we all can agree Jeremiah Love is a top 3 player, what if they're the ones that just say, you know what, F it? Look at James Conner. How much are they going to rely on this guy for?
Well,
and what if Benson hasn't turned into anything for them?
For purposes of this decision, I just asked AI to say who's the number one.
Don't bring AI into my draft show, bro.
Number 1 player mocked across mock drafts to the Cardinals, and it is actually Francis Mauigoa.
Yeah,
I know. I
don't know.
Really don't think it either. I just don't know who else it would be. I think it's a horrible spot for them to be in. And I'll be honest, it wouldn't be shocking to me. And this is going to sound insane.
What if they pick Ty Simpson? Because Dan Orlovsky's, just pressing this.
Dude, I'm telling you right now that I actually would say that I think Ty Simpson's more likely than Francis Mauigoa for them. I really think that. I just don't think they're going to take a right tackle at 3 with all the needs they have. no quarterback on the roster. Like, I don't, but like, I see it's very trendy to mock it. Plus, didn't they just spend a good amount of money on a guard in free agency too? I thought they spent on a guard.
Hold on a sec here.
I thought they spent on something on the interior because I was like, they already got Paris Johnson. That's a good start. If it is Noah, like right, like I feel with you, Bailey, and then Styles, and then I think Cardell Tate would actually go 6 to Cleveland.
I agree with that.
And then Jeremiah Love 7 to the Commanders, and then you have the Saints at 8. And I would say it's either going to be Bain or Delane.
It's going to be Delane.
If you say it's Delane at 9, I'm saying the Chiefs are going to take Caleb Downs. So then you have the Bengals on the board. They don't need Ruben Bain, dude. They just paid Louis Mafe. They just drafted Shamar Stewart a year after, or 2 years after drafted Miles Murphy out of Clemson. Like, they have an abundance of the same guy that's kind of built like those, like Shamar Stewart, right? Like kind of compacted, built like Ruben Bain, right? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think Ruben Bain is the guy in that exercise that's going to fall into Miami or Mauigoa, right? We just kind of proved it's going to be one of the guys from the U, though.
So who do you think they're going to take at 10 then?
At 10, if they go, I'm going to give you 2 names that are going to fucking be crazy. One name I'm going to give you that's going to, people are going to say, hell no. I think that there's going to be chatter in the top 13 picks for Dylan Finneman. I heard the Cowboys love him.
Yeah, because his athleticism. Yeah.
If they fall like that would be just an awful position for the Bengals to be in, to be honest, based off of their needs. Because I think at worst they want Delane or Caleb Downs, right? Could they go Jermod
and
McCoy
you got them
there?
both you got them both going before.
Could they go Jermod McCoy? Like, I don't think they're going to go Ruben Bain. I really don't. Could they go Vega Ione and try to build the interior of that line?
See, the other thing too, though, is interesting here is, what if I'm right? What if the Commanders take Bain? Do they take Jeremiah Love there?
I mean, you would have to take him at 10.
And then all of a sudden, now you got Burrow with Love and Chase.
If we didn't have a contract done for Achane by then, like, I would take Love at 11. I'm just saying, like, if he fell that far, that would be insane. Like, I think he'll go before.
Yeah, but we're talking about one of the. I agree with you. He should go before that because I think he's better than Ginty that came out last year. So.
Well, look at the top 10. It just shows you how weird of a draft. We're talking about a right tackle in Mauigoa.
Wait, so we got so this is how we got Mendoza, we got Reese, then we got Simpson or Mauigoa at 3, then we have Bailey at 4, then we have Styles at 5, then we have Tate at 6, then I have Bain, you have Love at 7, then we both agree on Delane at 8, then we have Downs at 9. And then now we basically have either Love if he's there, or probably maybe Dylan Cienneman or McCoy.
I would say they're going to go with Jermod McCoy. I think they need a true corner there. That's how I would do it.
But look, we have Freeling falling out of the top 10 too.
Yeah, I think I have him going to like Detroit at 17ish, to be honest, for me. And I like him. I've actually heard the Ravens really like Spencer Fano, and that if they can't get Vega Ione, that's a guy that they have high on their board.
Do they want to kick him in?
Yeah, I think he'd start in with potential to kick out. But see, in our exercise, I have Ruben Bain. I think Ruben Bain's going to be on the clock when the Dolphins take 11. I do.
Buddy, I'm taking that.
Oh, yeah, me too. 100%.
Now, if it goes Simpson at 3 and Love at 7 and Bain and Mauigoa are on the board, now what do you do?
Very tough. I would say that I think Francis Mauigoa is more of a sure thing.
I'm taking Mauigoa.
Yeah, I would take him because I think at worst you have an all-pro guard.
Yeah, and then I'm coming back at 30. Akeem Messidor, or Malachi Lawrence. Or I'm taking one of those, or I'm trying to get one of those edges.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think an edge at 30 makes a lot of sense.
Man, can you, I want you to think about this. Imagine if Mauigoa or Bain fell to us at 11 and McCoy somehow fell to us at 30.
Dude, I think there's a chance McCoy falls a little bit. I don't know about 30.
He's not falling like Will Johnson, brother.
No, I don't think he'll go that far. I think Minnesota is
You
a
know why?
realistic landing spot at 18.
He's about to blow up this pro day. You watch, dog. Watch. Did you see him at the podium when they asked him? Oh, he's not testing. He said, no. But at the pro day, I'm gonna do everything. And you could see it in his eyes. It's coming at the pro day. Get ready.
Well, and look, like we just did the exercise, and depending on how the board falls, it gets tough at 11, right? Like,
what about
like
Emmanuel McNeil Warren at 30? I don't think he's gonna be there, but I would love that.
I think there is a scenario where Miami could look to trade back, especially with teams looking to get one of those receivers before the Rams and the Jets and even the Ravens. Like that, like as much as I just said the Ravens like those linemen, like if Jordan Tyson's there, Baltimore will sniff. That's how they have always rolled. They've been looking for a legitimate, bona fide stud receiver to pair with Zay Flowers. We just saw the cost that Jackson Smith and Jigba got on the market, right? Like they're about to give Zay his 5th-year option, and then they got to pay him. Like, I'm sorry, Zay Flowers getting $35 million a year is crazy to me. And a typical Ravens fashion would be to draft the next man up. I think Miami is going to have a lot of flurry of activity to trade back. And if there's guys like Sadiq, guys like Ione, guys like Jermon McCoy that you value, and you can move from 11, let's just say Minnesota at 18, you're picking up a second-round pick, man. You're picking up a second-round pick at least to move back 7 spots. So, I don't know. I'll tell you, the name that I like at 30, you named one, Malachi Lawrence. I love him at 30. Then Colton Hood, the other Tennessee corner, I love him at 30 as well.
Yeah, he's great.
McNeil Warren, I do
Chris
love.
Johnson.
I think the Bears is where McNeil Warren's fall would end, though. They lost both their starting safeties in Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brister. I think that McNeil Warren at 25 makes a lot of sense. But, that top 10 exercise is tough. And that's where I keep telling everyone, the draft starts with the Arizona Cardinals at 3. And I don't know, man. I have a weird feeling Tyson is going to find his way in the top 10.
Orlovsky is gassing him right now. Holy jeez.
And that's not the only reason I'm saying it, because I actually like Orlovsky a little bit. I think he does a good job.
I do too. I respect him.
But I'll say this. I think there's more to it than just that. I do think there are teams that are interested. I think if he's there, I think
I've heard the Browns and the Jets liked him, bro.
Yeah.
We talked about this. We've heard the teams we've heard that draft after us. I've heard the Jets, the Browns, and the Steelers all like him, and that's why I've been talking about for months. Have I not been talking about for months the scenario of us trading back so a team can jump the Rams? And those are 3 specific teams I've been talking about because I've heard they all like him.
And 21's where I think his free fall would end. The Steelers would take him.
Yeah.
And McCarthy would love him. He's a coach of a son. He is a perfect guy. This is a different scenario than Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay when they wanted to be drafted. If Aaron Rodgers comes back, which is a 99% chance he does, there's no doubt in my mind this is his last season. And
they like Will Howard there too, apparently, eh?
Yeah, and I could see that. But it's funny because they did a good job. I think even though they paid him $20 million, 6th-round pick for Michael Pittman was a good move, to bolster their receiving core. They do need some speed, but they have, I think, 3rd or 4th-round picks themselves. They'll be able to get some talent there.
When are you down to look for a wide receiver for the Dolphins?
I'll be honest, and this isn't going to be popular. Round 3. I do like Chris Brazell a lot. I want to go offensive line, edge, and corner with the first 3 picks in whatever order the best player is.
But that's hoping, but that's just hoping the board falls your way, because the thing. Okay, here's the thing. The thing that I've noticed when I look at, where my grades are relative to who's drafting where, there's going to be an edge and corner run between 30 and 43. It feels like, and it might be painful. Yeah, it might be okay, now you're just settling when there's other positions of higher value. There might be better guards on the board than edges and corners by the time you get to 43.
Well, and that's where I think the worst, if let's just say you got Delaney at 11, Malachi Lawrence at 30, I'd actually be okay with Miami taking Keelan Rutledge as high as 43. And I saw a mock who just came out. Who was it today? Field Yates did a 2-rounder, and he had Keelan Rutledge at pick 37. Wow. I think to the Giants. So he's a guy who's getting a lot of love. But I think to be honest, with those 2 first rounders, the mocks that have wide receiver, I hate to say this, I kind of just stopped reading them after I see they have a receiver going to the Dolphins at 11 because I don't think there's a world where that
Oh,
happens.
they're not. But I
think
think they're. I'm telling you, if this guy was part of Christian Watson, they're gonna love Bryce Lance, and I think they're gonna target the Bryce Lances and the Ted Hurts type of guys, and they're gonna be 70s is when it's gonna be really turned up. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, look, they're going to have options at 30 for whether it's Malachi Lawrence, Zion Young. We've talked about these guys, right? I don't want them at 30, but Cash Howe, like he's a guy that I still think will be there. You got Colton Hood, Brandon Cece at corner, like Chris Johnson probably. Like you're going to have options, man. Like that 30th pick is going to be pretty interesting. Like if they strike out on offensive line early, can they go Emmanuel Pregnon there, right? Could they go with the pure left guard who's an ass kicker in the run game? Like it's going to be interesting, but like, man, like this is one of the harder mock drafts to like execute because it's like,
is Chase Besantis, a great athlete at guard, going to be there on the board at 43? And that's another option too for you.
I would love him at 43, actually. Like he's a guy that I have circled and starred at that spot, but like, like somebody will be. And like those first 3 picks, like Hafley's a defensive coach. The only money we spent this offseason was on a quarterback, right? Like that was offense. Like if
but
I'm Jeff Hafley,
brother.
Yeah. Oh,
do you realize our top receiver right now is Jalen Tolbert? Like,
but I also don't expect much from the offense or the defense.
I know, but name his top 3 weapons right now: De'Von Achane, Greg Dulcich, and Jalen Tolbert. Oh, bro, we need something.
Oh, dude, this is right. I mean, dude, people don't like to hear it. It's the worst roster in football right now. I really think it is head to toe. I mean, Arizona's close. Because Buda Baker's not a young guy. Josh Sweat's trying to get out of there. I mean, they're a pretty big disaster too. That's why, like, Ty Simpson going to the Cardinals or Jets is a big win for us, to be honest.
Oh, it is
because it's one less team that I think is a real candidate.
Let him go 2 overall and push Arvel down and push these guys down. Let's go.
Well, see, I think the Cardinals would go Arvel Reese if they had the ability.
Yeah. But then that pushes down. That the ripple effect of that will be now things might change. I think Bailey still goes at 4 there, but now what do you do if like it changes now for a team like the what's it called? The Giants, right? Like what do you do there now? Because I've heard rumbling, and that's another team too. We talked about Love earlier. I've heard they quietly really like Jeremiah Love.
Oh, I think Styles, Monsoor Delane. I think even Mauigoa can make sense to there. Like, look, Andrew Thomas is hurt a lot. They got Jermaine Illuminar for a good deal. Their guard situations suck. They could totally take a Mauigoa for year 1, play him inside and kick him out. Like that's a Ravens type of move, right? So I don't know. Like, and Harbaugh's not going to just.
Or what if Fano? What if they just fall in love with Fano and Fano goes in the top 10 and we didn't expect it?
God, if him or Freeland go in the top 10, man, that I think that makes whoever the Dolphins get even more fun, right? Because somebody's going to get pushed down. Because my biggest hot take for my personal draft board, I think that most people would be shocked with is I don't have Arvel Reese as a top 10 player in this draft.
Yeah, you've talked about this before. Yeah.
I think he's good. You're betting on his upside as a pass rusher. I do think he's going to add muscle to his frame and get, probably 15 more pounds. But
don't you view him as like a jack of all trades, master of none type thing?
I remember he reminds me of Jalen Walker coming out of Georgia last year with a little bit more athleticism. I don't want to shortchange him, but I trust Matt Patricia a lot as a defensive coordinator for Ohio State. And with the season on the line, it was Kenyatta Jackson and Kayden Curry. They had rushing the passer, not Arvel Reese. So, not to say he can't develop. I don't know about you. If I have the number 2 overall pick, I would deem Ronnie Brown as a bust as the number 2 pick for the Dolphins. And a lot of people would be like, you're crazy. The Wildcat. I mean, dude, he was a one-time Pro Bowl running back for us. You know what I mean? I don't think he was never the Saquon Barkley level player. You know what I mean? I just expect bigger dividends from a number 2 overall pick.
Hate on my guy.
No,
that wasn't a great draft, bro. Cadillac went in the top. What was Cadillac went in the top 5 or 8, didn't he? And Ronnie was better than Cadillac.
Well, my senior year, my background on my computer, because I was my senior year of college, everyone gave me shit. You know who my background on my computer was?
Who?
Aaron Rodgers. Now.
Oh yeah.
That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted it too for the Dolphins.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a Marino thing where a whole bunch of teams passed on him, right?
Yeah, because I
So
think he was quirky and weird, man. But no, I loved Ronnie Brown, and it was a weird draft because Cedric Benson went 4, Cadillac went 5. It was when running back still meant something in the
yeah.
NFL.
Yeah.
But I just think if let's say Arvell Reese comes in the league and gets 5 sacks his rookie year,
Yeah.
at a number 2 overall pick, Michael Parsons had 13 his rookie year, right? And he was
Jared
what
Verse.
number? Yeah, right. Like exact. Chop had 6. Chop had 6. So
yeah. All right, let's get into some Dolphin stuff here. First things first. The Dolphins, it was revealed by Kayden McDonald himself via Justin M that he has a 30 visit with the Dolphins. This is a big time defensive tackle here. What are your thoughts on them bringing one of the better defensive tackles in the class in for a 30 visit?
we'll have to have a crisis line 1-800-909-9900 like Mean Gene Okerlund back in the day if the Dolphins take a defensive tackle at number 11 coming off the heels of the draft they just had. But with that said, I don't know. I absolutely love Kayden McDonald. I think he's a top 20 player in the draft. I think he's the best run defender in the entire draft. He looks like the strongest football player that I've seen throughout the whole process. But with all that said, like there's a redundancy to Kenny Grant to me there, and you didn't draft Kenny Grant a year ago. Like look, I will say this: if somehow Kayden McDonald is there at 30, and he very much well could be, if you want to go and build a problem, you get him and Kenny Grant like the Williams wall, and Pat Williams and Kevin Williams back in the day for Minnesota, like at pick 30. A lot of people would be still upset. We'd still have the crisis hotline, but I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, because he might be on the board there at 30. Yeah.
Then you have him. Then you have a problem where you don't you probably ship out Zach Sealer, your defensive line between Grant, Biggers, Jordan Phillips, and McDonald's probably the biggest and strongest in football. I do think I've asked myself, is there a real potential at pick 30? Even we're talking about Kayden McDonald, there was a guy that was a top 10 pick for many mocks for a long time, Peter Woods. And he's more the 3 tech, right? Like the explosive guy. I'll tell you this, dude. If he's there at pick 30, then I'm scratching my head too. But I do like Kayden McDonald, but I don't know, man. I don't know if that's the right pick for Miami. Like I could see him going, I guess, to the Chargers at 22. I could see him going to Houston and being a really good fit. He is a typical guy that the Baltimore Ravens draft, throw in the middle of their defense, and they're getting huge contracts. You remember Brandon Williams a few years back? That's who I am reminded by when I watch Kayden McDonald.
You talk about McDonald, talk about Peter Woods, another run defender you might be able to add, but he's an edge. He might still be on the board at that point is TJ Parker. So there's going to be options there if you want to beef up that front. Yeah, if you want to beef up that front.
Yeah, no, there's that pick 30, right? Like that pick 30, look, Waddle's gone. We got to move on.
You think Messidor's gone by 30?
I do. You know what? I actually think my hot take, I think he goes top 20 between Tampa Bay and Carolina. I think he's going to go.
Think about this, Neal. Imagine in some world, if Bain fell to us 11 and Messidor fell to you at 30, do you just double up because you know what
I mean that, and from the marketing standpoint, you could just sell it. And here's one thing that's written serious about the Ruben Bain and the Messidor talk, right? Look, their defensive line coach is Jason Taylor. The Dolphins and Jason Taylor have obviously a great relationship, right? Like
we need to hire him.
Yeah, I mean, you should be able to get more intel on these type of guys than any team in football.
Keontae Scott, who they have a visit coming up with. But I mean, listen, they have a local pro day with all of these guys. I mean, no one's gonna have more. They have a dinner with all of these guys every year, right? With the U guys. So
could you imagine though a pissed off Ruben Bain? Look, if he goes pick 11, right? He's pissed off, right? Yeah. And I get it. I see the arm length thing, and he would be an outlier, right? He'd be worse than
But he's an outlier. Cassius Howell is the outlier you do not roll the dice on. Ruben Bain is the outlier you roll the dice on. There's literally like you can see, right? Cassius Howell, like, yeah, he's got shorter arms than Bain, but they both got to be outliers. But you look at their game, their style, how they win, what works for them, their ability as run defenders. Bain is the one you roll the die, is the one that looks like it's the outlier that's going to work. Cassius Howell looks like he's going to be the bust.
You could put the best game Keldric Faulk had on against an average game from Ruben Bain, and the difference is eye popping. And like that's where, like, if you're going to take like Keldric Faulk to me is a risky pick at 11. If you're going to make a risky pick, give it to the guy who has short arms that plays the game like Terrell Suggs. Like, give me that guy.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I don't want nothing to do with a guy like Cash Howell. All right, and I wanted to talk about this too. I'm going to play the clip for everyone. Adam Schefter was on Pat McAfee, and he said the market he's most interested in, Neal, is the running back market, and a huge deal could be coming Achane's way, but will it be coming in Miami?
We just saw a receiver, reset the market. What other position group is going to get paid this offseason, do you think?
To me, the group that I was watching going into the offseason was not wide receiver, where Jackson Smith and Jigba already has been paid and where we think Puka Nacua also will get paid, but running back. Take a look at the running backs right now, Ty. Bijan Robinson, going to cash in. Jahmyr Gibbs, going to cash in. De'Von Achane, going to cash in. There are going to be some huge running back deals that get done at some point this offseason. So whereas we've already seen one big wide receiver deal, get ready for the parade of running backs, because that's what's coming next.
Do you think we're past what was it? It was a couple years ago where the running backs essentially kind of said, like, hey, we're going to unionize because no one is paying us anything. But for guys like Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson, who are also catching, upwards of 85 to maybe in certain cases 100 passes a year, like, are we done with that?
When you can catch like Bijan, Jahmyr, and De'Von Achane, you make yourself more valuable, but there's a limit to that value. Even that value, which is extreme for that position, is still half of the top wide receiver. So it is what it is. That's kind of where the running back market's at. But it's, I think, noticeably improved from where it's been in recent years. Like, running backs were written off. They were discounted. Their prices were cheap. And I think Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, they helped reestablish running back values to get them back on track. And they're still low, but they are certainly improved, and they're in a much better spot than they were, and they're about to go up again.
So, Neal, a number, like a thing that I've heard is all season is look at James Cook's contract as like a starting point, right? And he signed a 4-year, $46 million deal. And I think it's upwards to 4. He can get to 48, right? I think he can. So it can average out to like 12 million a year or whatever. Now he got around 30 million. What did he get of that guaranteed? He got almost 30 million of that guaranteed, right? He got 28.8 million of that guaranteed. What do you think this is going to, do you think we're talking like a 4-year, let's throw a number out there. Let's go 14 million a year. So let's 4-year, 56 million with about like, what are we talking about? Like 35. You think it's going to be 60 million?
I think he's going to get 4 years, 68 million. I think he's going to get the equivalent of 17 million a season. And here's why. I think he's going to be the first guy to go because he doesn't have a 5th-year option. He's the Dolphins' best running back. He's the Dolphins' best wide receiver, right? Like he is right now. And, I think I know James Cook had a very productive, I think he led the league in rushing last year. I just think Achane's a more dynamic player. We were texting about this last night. Like, full disclosure, I've heard the Seahawks are willing to part with a 1st-round pick for him. And I don't want to do that. Like, you don't want to do that. Like, why don't we want to trade? Why don't we want to trade our running back for a first round?
I don't want to trade him, but if you're going to trade him, I need a first, a day 2, a day 3, and maybe another pick in there. I don't want to trade him though.
Well, the reason we don't want to trade him is because we know he's
24.
He's a transcendent player in this league who's got 3 to 5 years of being a top tier running back in this league. He's going to earn the next 4-year contract that he gets. Yeah. And then you probably part ways with him. Yes. Or, so it is what it is. But it doesn't matter if you're a Super Bowl contender or if you're a new team building, you're not going out in the draft and finding another De'Von Achane.
Especially if you believe in Malik the way they apparently believe in Malik, Neal.
Point number 2 was going to be just that. The dynamic running game that you can have with the speed that you have at the quarterback and running back position is game-changing. And here's the thing, man. When you think about investing, $17 million, let's say, Neal, you're crazy. That seems like a high price tag. But when you think about it, but here's the thing. We just paid $6 million a year for Zach Wilson to take snaps here, right? Yeah. So it's one of those things.
Well, think about this, Neal, too. I'll throw this one out, and I'll let you continue. But throw this one out just because you're keeping with finances here. If you add that $17 million with the $22 million we gave Malik, you're paying less for Achane and Malik if Malik hits than what Tua. You paid for Tua.
Right. And that's he's honestly, he was, then there's no problem. He was the lone bright spot of a disappointment last year.
2 years in a row. 2 years in a row.
Clearly the best player on this team. He was the best
2 years in a row, even
team.
When Tyreek was healthy.
I literally was just going to say, when Tyreek was still playing, that De'Von Achane was the best player on the field. And dude, you're talking about it's peanuts in the grand scheme of the NFL for a player of his caliber. Now, I'll say this. You have until April 25th to get this deal done, because it should not linger past the draft, because if you can't get a deal done with him right now, then you should trade him. You have full control over this right now. You want to put, you've got rid of everybody, every jersey that any fan in this fan base had. You got rid of them, right? The Waddles, the Tyreeks, the Chubbs. We know the drill, the Tua, right? What a good message to send to your fan base to reward them with the best player of your team for the next 4 years, heading into the draft where you're going to go and draft 7 great players in the first 2 days of this draft. You tell me, you want to, how they've operated, right? They've done a hell of a job of making decisions when they've made them. They weren't cute. They got all the releases done. They made the hard decisions. They came in here and totally cleaned house. But there's people that are here and players that are here that need to be rewarded. And, there is not a player on this roster. There's not going to be a player on this roster who's more deserving than Achane. I don't care about $17 million. If it's 14 to 17, hell, if it's 18, I don't really give a shit about $3 to $4 million. That's not my money. In the NFL, with the salary cap rising,
every year,
and us having potentially $180 million in cap space next year, I could care less about a $3 to $4 million delta. I know this.
Tell him, Neal.
In whether it's Malik Willis or Arch Manning in 2028, when this team's contending for the playoffs again, I know that I want De'Von Achane on my team.
I agree.
And I know that. And that's why Seattle, right? It's a 32nd pick in the draft. I'd love to have 3 first-round picks in this draft. I'm not going to lie. And it's probably going to be a 2027 draft pick if you did it anyway. With that said, I'm not doing it for De'Von Achane. I wouldn't take Jalen Waddle's deal for De'Von Achane. I would need a 1 with a high level 2. It would have to be a top 15 pick probably for me to feel comfortable pulling the trigger on De'Von Achane. And you named the guys, right? I think Bijan's a better overall football player than De'Von Achane. I'm not going to lie. I think De'Von Achane is every bit the player Jahmyr Gibbs is. I think he's every bit.
I don't think they can run routes. And I think they can't line up in the slot and run routes. Look at some of the high point catches he's made in the end zone that he has just no business at his size making. I think he's a better I think he could legitimately, we talked about this on this channel. I don't know if we talked about it on the show, but I know we talked about it on this channel. There was legitimate conversations of when Tyreek went down, should you just convert Achane to receiver right now? People were actually, because he's that good. No one's talking about converting Gibbs to a receiver, but he's that good of a route. He's that high level of a route runner and catcher and ball tracker outside of the stuff running backs do in the backfield. That's what makes him, to me, the most dynamic weapon in the NFL. Like, man, you do not see running backs that can run routes and separate at the level that he does. He can separate with a route or his speed. Pick your poison.
Yeah, and I love Jahmyr Gibbs. There's a knock on him, but
I agree with Jason Stamp. He is. I agree. That is McCaffrey and Achane are cut from the same cloth, 110%.
Well, look, he doesn't have the line with Penei Sewell anchoring it that Detroit has, right? And I know he's not there now, but they had Taylor Decker, who's a pretty damn good left tackle, and he had Ragnow the year before he retired. So I think
look what he did in the Broncos game when we had our starting five. One of the few times in the last couple of years since he's been here, we've had our starting five. Look what he did.
Right, and look, whether we like it or not, Jared Goff's simply a better quarterback than Tua Tagovailoa, right? And that helps you. So I think De'Von Achane carried a hopeless franchise on his back.
And all he needs is interior. Remember when he had Connor Williams, when he had Robert Hunt, and when he had what's his face? The one me and you were right about that everyone said we were nuts. The tackle they kicked in the left guard. He played there at Georgia. He got hurt. Who was our left guard for that year?
The tackle.
Remember he was a tackle. He played for New England, and then
Isaiah Wynn.
And Isaiah, do you remember how good Isaiah Wynn was at left guard? Remember me and you nailed that? People in the media were like, "Oh, they're gonna stick him, keep him at tackle." And me and you were like, "No. They're gonna move him back to guard. Watch it." They moved him back to guard, and you remember how formidable that interior was? And look at what Achane was. All you got to do is build a formidable interior. You don't even got to really worry about the tackles. That's more for the quarterback. And Achane is going to absolutely annihilate everyone.
Well, and then you talk about that, and I'll be honest, going back to our draft conversation, when I think about what's the worst case scenario at 11, I mean, that's why Vega Ione has such a real temptation as a Dolphins fan, because then you kick Jonah over to the right side where he's more comfortable. You put Ione at left guard. From left to right, it's Patrick Paul, Ione, Aaron Brewer. You got Austin Jackson, who's serviceable, and then you hope Jonas Savaiinaea takes that next step.
He will.
And if not, who cares? I'll be honest.
All he's got to do is hit the weight room and better his anchor, Neal. It's not like, if people look at how simple the fixes are to Jonah's game, it's actually quite simple. And I'll say this, Eichenberg never gave us the foundation that Jonah gave us as a rookie in the run game in how many years he was here. A
lot of his mistakes, you can even tell they're mental mistakes for not knowing your assignments. And I think the complexity of Mike McDaniel's offense doesn't help. I'm not making excuses for him. No. But I think sometimes when you have a young offensive lineman, it's like, hey, that guy who's got the other jersey in front of him, that's your guy.
Bro,
block that guy.
I'm telling you, right? He fixes his anchor and 90% of his problems go away. Strengthen that anchor, 90% of his problems go away.
Right, and then you're moving on from probably Austin Jackson after this year.
Yeah, thank God. Please, Mauigoa, fall to us.
Right, but so and even Mauigoa, so that's where the offensive line thing's attractive to me, because I know that it's something we've neglected to do. But man, I actually hope, with Adam Schefter reporting that and saying that the way he does in Adam Schefter fashion, that makes me think something's close to happening. He likes to put those little nuggets out there so that everyone starts to nibble on them, and then it's like you get your phone at midnight and it's buzzing on your end table, and it's De'Von Achane 4-year deal.
Achane and Brewer extensions are coming. Brooks is going to be traded.
Yeah, I think 100%, and that's why I think everything that they've done from a financial standpoint has had intent, right? Yeah. They did that little tweak with Waddle's deal. He was moved within 24 hours of that tweak. I think they tweaked Achane and Brewer because they're coming with extensions that are going to lower that cap hit and give them long-term, a long-term future in Miami. And I think Jordan Brooks is the odd man out. And it's not that he's not a good player. I just think that when he hit first-time All-Pro, he's probably looking to get a contract in the $14, $15 million a year as an aging team. And one thing I know that Hafley's going to want is linebackers that he wants for his system. I don't know if Jordan Brooks is that fit. And I'll be honest, they might have to package 130 and Brooks, but I would do it to get back up early in round 3. And you know what? Never scratch that. Round 5 and Jordan Brooks to get a 5th pick in round 3. You could sign me up for that.
Yayo man says Fano. Fano makes a ton of sense, dude. I like Fano a lot. I have him projected best as a guard. And what do the Packers like to do? They like to draft tackles and kick him in the guard. Fano in a trade back. If you trade back from 11 and Fano's on the board, I would love that. I'm down. You know, I think Vagaglione is my top guard. Fano would be my guard 2.
Yeah, I'm with that.
So,
yeah, I'm with that.
But you know, too, I wouldn't be mad if they say, hey, we want to try him out at tackle for a year too, because Fano is a top 5 tackle in this class. That's what the film tells you. It's probably him, Freeling, and Mauigoa as the top 3 guys. I'm not a huge Proctor guy, and I think Proctor might be better at guard too, but that's a different conversation for a different day. But Fano, I mean, listen, I'd be down. He's the perfect kind of candidate they love to kick in. You know what I mean? So that would make a ton of sense for me. I wanted to shout out Penn. She gifted 5 Finside the NFL memberships. We got over 500 people in the chat right now. Yates latest mock has Mauigoa at 11 and Concepcion at 30. Listen, I like Concepcion. I really do. It's just I would love if he could fall to you at 43 instead of 30. You know,
and we're not I get it. We traded Waddle, we lost Tyreek. We need a wide receiver. Like, next year is a historic wide receiver class. Like, let's get a pass rusher. Let's get defense. Let's get all of it. Let's get the grocery list. We don't need the receiver yet. I really don't think so. I think we're a little bit away from needing the receiver. There's next year. I mean, look, next year, if Malik Willis pans off, you could go get Jeremiah Smith. You could get Cam Coleman, Ryan Williams, Ryan Wingo. I mean, there's so many guys.
You're more in the okay. Maybe a Bryce Lance, Ted Hurst, maybe a Jacoby Lane, or maybe a Dejon Stribling or a Jeff Caldwell. You're more of a guy let's go from the 70s to the 130 range is where you're more in, right?
100%. 100%.
Do you think how far do you think Antonio Williams falls? Because he could be if he could be a guy. If he falls to you in the 70s, that could be a freaking steal.
I was literally, Dan, we're on the same page today. I literally was just going to say, out of all the receivers you named, the guy that I would want over all of them is Antonio Williams, and I've seen him fall.
You think he falls that far, though?
I've seen him in round 3 in a lot of mocks, dude.
Do you think Chris Bell falls, too? Because remember, before the injuries, bro, I mean, holy geez, right? Where a lot of people were projecting him to go. I mean, and he's explosive. He's got a lot of traits. Do you think Chris Bell falls, too?
He's there at 43, I think. I think he's there at 43. I think he definitely goes round 2. But I think that we just named a bunch of guys that are going to be in there in round 3 that are worth the swing. Yeah. That's why, to me, I don't think you have to panic and just say I think it's low hanging fruit to say, oh, you traded Waddle, let's get him. I think this gives Halfley and John Eric Sullivan the arsenal to build this team the right way. I think they come in and say, look, this is built the wrong way. Let us get our draft capital, our financial freedom from this cap hell to go and build this the right way. So I think it's honestly building a good offensive line and building a stout defense. Getting the skill position players, I think, is a phase 2 approach. It's go get the meat and potatoes. Look at your roster and go and do the things that the old regime failed to do.
Sullivan's dad is one of the greatest wide receiver coaches of all time. Sullivan knows he's probably got the blueprint and doesn't need to spend premium picks, and that's why Green Bay never did. So he's probably sitting here thinking, I could hit on a Bryce Lance, a Ted Hurst, one of these guys, on mid to late day 2 at best if I want to go high, and then I'm good.
Yeah, and I don't think he's wrong, and I think that it's you get a guy that's serviceable this year. Look, the receiving core you mentioned, Jalen Tolbert, Tutu Atwell, this is the who's who of guys that didn't live up to the hype at their previous positions, right?
Jags.
So it's I get it. But they didn't – what they proved to you by trading Jalen Waddle was they don't value wide receiver as highly as we do as fans. That's what they proved to us.
Yeah, because they believe they can draft it. Look at Matthew Golden was the first guy in 20-plus years, and I'll tell you this much. You want a hot take from me? Chris Brazell is better than Matthew Golden. And I'm just saying, I know they would draft Matthew Golden in the 20s, but Chris Brazell at 30 is an absolute steal compared to where to Matthew Golden in the first round, in my opinion. But listen, we got to get out of here. Guys, over 500 of you in the room, smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. Let us know down below. Would you pay De'Von Achane? And if so, what would you pay De'Von Achane? Or would you trade Achane? What would you want in a trade for Achane? Let us know down below, all right? We will catch you guys on the next one. And I will be live tomorrow in the day, all right? Ryan Roberts is joining the show, and we are going to talk a lot of draft. We got the wide receiver big board dropping later this week. It's draft season on Finside the NFL. Let's get it. Fins up. We'll catch each and every one of you on the next one. Have a fantastic rest of your evening, everyone.